Hi, PSMA members. Thank you again for attending our webinar. Today's webinar is hosted by MedPro, specifically by John Kioussis. And John, I'll just let you take over if you're ready.
All right, Meg, well, I appreciate it. Yes, thanks everybody for tuning in here. Today, MedPro is going to walk you through a line item and an item in your office that sometimes can be overlooked, which is efficiently managing your waste streams, everything from medical waste to pharmaceutical and everything in between. So hopefully you find this very educational and can help you identify some ways to help you even cut costs in practice. So that being said, again, my name is John Kioussis. I'm one of the sales managers here at MedPro. I've been here with MedPro a little over 7 years. So quite a bit of industry knowledge packed in, and hopefully I can get some of that out to everybody here today to let you use that to help manage your waste streams efficiently. So a few housekeeping, we'll save all the questions here at the end. And if you have any specific questions, we'll share our contact info so you can reach out to us then. But diving right into it, kind of a brief overview about what we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about your traditional waste streams, everything like I mentioned, from regulated medical waste to even a lot of paper waste, believe it or not, that you may have. And what we found actually here in our industry is that 80% of all healthcare practices are actually overpaying for their waste. And what we can do here is help you identify ways to help reduce your costs that might be very simple and yet overlooked here in the industry. So how do we know that 80% are overpaying? Well, since the 1980s, really, there's only been one dominant vendor in the medical waste removal field. And unfortunately, a lot of people have some misinformation around some of these waste streams and how they need to be managed. So some common waste streams in the healthcare field, these are all things that everybody's probably very well aware of. Sharps, right, that go into those sharps containers. They have any medical or biohazard waste that you have, which is anything that's saturated in a bodily fluid. So it can be gloves, gauze, bandages, anything else that you might have. It's also known as RMW, which just stands for regulated medical waste. But there's a lot of, all those terms are interchangeable. So just know that in this industry, whether you say red bag waste, biohazard, medical waste, RMW, all that is interchangeable. And then, if you do any chemotherapy waste, any cancer centers or anybody that treats anything like that, that is another waste stream. This is, as you can see here, trace chemotherapy, which just means there's some leftover amounts, whether it's in a syringe or an IV line or an IV bag after the treatment is administered. We handle that as well. So a few more pharmaceuticals, which it can be anything from expired, non-controlled, non-hazardous medications to your controls, your schedules 1 through 5, and then anything that could be hazardous, like aerosols, P-listed, U-listed waste, things that are RCRA, or commonly known as the drugs that go into the black box. And we can talk about that more later. And that, like we had mentioned earlier here, documents and data, things that are, protected health information regulated by HIPAA, and how you can help reduce that waste stream as well. So we manage all types of these waste streams. Solid waste as well, we can do this for you at times. This is probably the one that most people can relate to the most in terms of knowing what goes where, right? And everybody knows what garbage is, and it just ends up in the proper can. So how do we help you create efficiency? How do you create efficiency inside your organization? Step one is classification, knowing what goes where. You'd be surprised how often we find that non-biohazardous materials going into the biohazard box, or non-hazardous medications are going into the medication box. We see that very often. So that's one. The other one is frequency. And frequency and volume, these two here go hand in hand. Are you being picked up on a frequency that's right for your office, or are you being picked up on a frequency that's better for your vendor? And we can talk about that. And volume. So when your vendor is coming out to service you, is the box full? Are you maximizing space in your facility? Those three things right here, the biggest three takeaways in terms of helping you create efficiency in terms of your waste stream. So one of the things we just talked about, classification, knowing what goes into which bin. So medical waste can be expensive. There's no doubt about that. It's definitely treated differently than the garbage you have at home. It actually costs about 8 times more than your traditional waste stream. So you can do a few things. You can eliminate overuse. Things that, don't pose a risk to patients can be disposed of in your normal waste stream. So for example, let's say you've got a pair of gloves on and you just put them on to examine a patient. There's no bodily fluid on it. Those can go into a regular trash bin. Those don't need to go into the biohazard bin. Sure, it doesn't take up a lot of space, but if you apply those same rules to maybe some other things, whether it's table paper, things like I said, you'd be surprised what we see go into the biohazard box. Things like that can certainly help you reduce. So train your staff regularly and post guidelines near your bins, what goes where. If you were a MedPro customer, you'd have access. You can actually go on our website and download the chart free as well. It's a classification chart. It shows you your biohazard bin, your pharmaceutical bins, your regular trash, and then some key points about what goes into which bin. So just making sure that, it's classified properly and ending up in the right receptacle is really step one. I think you'd be surprised how much waste you can reduce by getting that taken care of. So next, like I mentioned, was service frequency. And frequency and volume definitely go hand in hand. So location is certainly matters and scheduling matters. So what we mean by that is route density is everything. In our business, in our industry, think of us as a logistics company. Because really at the end of the day, that's what all medical waste companies are. The goal is to have a truck leave a facility, make all its stops, the truck be as full as possible, from a company standpoint, to maximize profitability of running the route and paying the driver and the cost of insurance, and to make sure that that's maximized. So are you on a route that makes it cost effective for you? So for example, if you're in a major metropolitan area or a suburb of a major metropolitan area, likelihood is your location, your route density for an organization, for like a company like MedPro would be fine. There would be no issue if we had to come every week or every 2 weeks to pick up your waste, because we're likely driving past your facility even when we're not stopped, because you're just in a very densely populated area. However, if you're somewhere a little bit more rural, or maybe not even rural, maybe let's say 40, 50 miles, 60 miles outside of a major metropolitan area, that certainly can impact your price. So if there's an opportunity for you to reduce your frequency, let's say you have a janitor's closet that's not being used, or you have some space somewhere in the facility where you can store more waste, you will always get a discount with volume. So you can work with a company like MedPro or to help identify, do you have space? Can you store your waste a little bit longer and have us come maybe once a month versus every 2 weeks? That would certainly be a way to help you reduce costs. So schedule smart, work with a national company. Some key takeaways here. The reason being is, with a national company like MedPro, we can certainly identify those routes and be able to help you identify a frequency that will work best for you and be cost effective at the same time. So we talked about volumes. Frequency and volume, they go hand in hand. So you want to keep an eye on how much waste you generate to plan ahead for some of those busier times. What you don't want to have happen is that you fill up too quickly, or you don't have enough supplies, or you're not being picked up enough, and your volume gets to the point where you need to call for an emergency pickup. Regardless of what company or vendor you use for this service, any type of, same day, next day turnaround is extremely expensive. Think about just FedEx or UPS, right? If you need a package overnighted, you're certainly paying for those increased costs to make that happen. Same thing here with our industry as well. One of the ways you can know to help, you can find a flat rate provider. So the company here like MedPro, if you need an emergency pickup, it's clearly listed. You know exactly what you're going to pay for. There's no hidden fees or surprises. So make sure that, at the end of the day, you're with an organization, with a vendor, that if you did need that, because it happens, right? It happens. It happens here, maybe once a week where we have a customer call that needs something pretty quick. So we understand that. But know what it's going to cost you ahead of time and stay flexible because sometimes a vendor may only be in the area, once a week. And if the vendor misses you and it's Wednesday and they were just there on a Tuesday, it may not be feasible for a vendor to come back out and then pick you up the next day if they're only in. So where does it all go? Oh, we just talked about all the waste getting picked up and packaged up, volume, frequency, what goes in what bin. Well, what happens to it when it gets picked up? This is a question I thought I'd get asked a lot more in this industry. I don't really get asked this question, surprisingly. Maybe some people know, but I didn't when I first got into this industry. But most of the waste that gets picked up, so all of your medical waste, about 85 to 90% of it is actually going to be autoclaved. So essentially what it does is it sterilizes all the waste in a very large industrial size autoclave. And then it gets compacted down and taken to a dedicated landfill. So that's the most green option. That is actually the most cost-effective way to treat medical waste. Incineration is the next method that we use to treat medical waste removal. The thing here is that incineration can be very expensive. So incineration costs have escalated greatly over the last 10 years, mainly due to the EPA regulations that have become more strict over the years. This has caused a lot of the incinerators to actually close down. There's only about 5 incinerators across the entire United States that can handle medical waste. So things like pathology waste, trace chemotherapy waste that we talked about, that is what is incinerated. And from time to time, we do use chemical treatment. This is for your hazardous waste, so things like solvents, isopropyl alcohol, things that you may have that are flammable, or we do have some customers that require us to pick up large quantities of chemicals and dispose of them that way, and that's where the chemical treatment comes in. So a little bit about MedPro and who we are in general and where we're coming from in this industry. We're all about experience as a customer. So MedPro is actually founded as a customer of our leading competitor. So our CEO was a medical waste customer of our number one competitor, and had found that there was no alternative in the market when he went to shop around. This was a little over 10 years ago. So I bring this up as an interesting, just a little side note here, because MedPro was built in response to a lot of the complaints that were founded in this industry. So we've used that basis to really build an organization that's dialed into the customer. So we want to be very flexible. We want to be able to work with you. And you'll see that here in a lot of the key takeaways of what MedPro has to offer. But certainly there's a lot of great vendors out there. One of the things that we offer, though, we offer flat rate pricing like you'll see, flexible bundling options. MedPro is not your standard medical waste vendor only. We're a full service hauler. So we do everything from medical waste removal, we do OSHA training, pharmaceutical disposal, as we mentioned, we do document destruction, we do hazardous removal as well. So we can certainly be a one-stop shop for a lot of customers and offer a lot of additional bundling options to help reduce your costs. We have dedicated customer service advocates. I think this is the biggest one that separates MedPro from everybody else. When you sign up with us, you'll of course be provided an 800 customer service number in case you need anything. But we take it a step further. We actually dedicate a customer advocate to all of our accounts. So yes, you would work with one of our salespeople to help get you set up, and then you also will be paired up with a customer advocate. So you have one direct point of contact should you need anything moving forward. And we practice protection. So of course we are fully protected. We have one of the largest insurance policies in the industry. One of the things that MedPro does that other organizations do not do is we take title to your waste. So all the waste streams that we talked about, when we pick it up and it hits the back of our truck, in our agreement, we own it. The reason I bring that up is because most states say that the generator of the waste, so your organization, is actually responsible for it from what they call cradle to grave. From the time it's created to the time it ends up in a landfill or destroyed, you're responsible for it. Even if a vendor picks it up and something happens, you could be potentially liable for any fines should it be disposed of improperly. Here at MedPro, we take all that liability off of all of our customers, and it clearly says that in our agreement. So not only can we help you be more efficient, reduce costs, but we'll make sure that it's never at a compromise in liability. So I appreciate everybody kind of tuning in and taking a look at this. I hope there was some useful information in here. Like I mentioned earlier, to make sure the box is full every time they're being picked up and that you're on the right frequency. Make sure that the waste that you're putting in the bins is actually supposed to go in there. Again, visit our website, download the poster if you need to. It's completely free. But yeah, otherwise, we really appreciate it. Of course, if you feel like you're overpaying, give us a call. We'd be more than happy. We can give you pricing right over the phone. It's very non-intrusive. It only takes a couple minutes, so we won't eat up a lot of your time. Or feel free to email us if that's easier for you with any questions. But that kind of concludes my portion here. So if we have any questions, we can go from there.
Yeah. So if anyone has questions, go ahead and put them in the chat, and I'll be able to see them. But John, until then, I actually have a couple questions for you. First of all, so when medical waste is packaged, what type of containers is it stored in, and are there different sizes?
Yeah, they are. So good question. So most of the industry uses a large cardboard box lined with a red biohazard bag. That's probably the most familiar. And then there's also some plastic equivalents. So there's like a 28 to 30 gallon plastic container, also lined with a red biohazard bag. There's also some larger options. There's a 96 gallon container also that's pretty available all across the US. That's very similar to the large garbage can that you have at your house with the flip top lid and the two wheels. The reason that's important is you can obviously store more waste in a 96 gallon container. So as we were talking earlier, volume and frequency, instead of just filling up one box and having that picked up, once a week, you may be able to move to a larger container, have it pick up once a month, and actually save money for your organization. So yeah, good question.
Okay. And then secondly, is there any type of documentation once it's destroyed?
Yeah, there is. So another good question there. We certainly provide you all of the manifest documentation. So once the driver shows up, we pick up the waste, someone at the organization signs for the pickup, and then at that point, you actually get a carbon copy of it, and then we scan in the final destruction documents online. So you'll have the paper copy, but we also provide 24/7 access to all of your documents online, free of charge for all of our customers.
Awesome. And then actually, I do have another question. Can you let the members know what they get being specifically PSMA members?
Yeah, absolutely. So PSMA members get special discounts through MedPro. So I don't have the most updated list right in front of me, but I believe you get at least your first month of service for free. And we have specific pricing for PSMA members that is discounted well below what would normally be our rates. So when you call in, if you call in, one of our sales reps should know right away that you're calling from PSMA. And if not, be sure to mention that and make sure you capitalize on this.
Okay. And also another way that they can do that is just for talking to the members, you can go online to www.psmaconnect.com and find MedPro's listing. There should be eventually a link to this video. There'll also be a big red button that says, yes, please link vendor. And then when you click that button, your information will be sent to one of the contacts at MedPro, and they'll already know that you're a PSMA member, and then they can give you specific pricing for. I think the pricing varies depending on what service and all of that. So I don't have that pricing right up front, but they can give you more information on the specific pricing that PSMA members get exclusively. Or you can go to, up on the screen, it says medprodisposable.com/PSMA, and that is a PSMA member exclusive website, or landing page rather. I think that's all today. I don't see any questions in the chat. Thank you so much, John, for everything, and I look forward to having our members know more about MedPro.
That sounds great. No, I appreciate it, and yes, look forward to working with everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you, members, for tuning in.